If I told you that a wild Mustang with zero training went for $40,000, would you believe me? As of right now, I am on the very tail end of the May online auction. This auction has been crazy. I have been watching this one from the get-go, and there is a herd that is very well documented, that has been very, very talked about, that has gone for a chunk of change. By the way, if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Shay, and on this channel I talk about my two horses, Sage, my paint mare, and Penny, my Mustang mare, not really filly anymore, as well as a little bit of horsey educational content, and I try to keep up with what's going on in the Mustang community. This auction has just been bonkers to watch, with prices going up and down and up and down. So we're going to talk about it. If you guys have seen some of my videos before as far as the online auction, I try to keep up with the really cute ones that might go for a ton of money, but I also try to put a spotlight on some of the ones that I think still offer great builds, great personalities, really, really good potential horses that might be overlooked based off of the other horses that are on the market, or if they have kind of a bland color with no crazy markings. The first one we're looking at is a 7-year-old chestnut mare, 0369. She is from the Diamond HMA, which is in Nevada. She's 14.2 hands, and she's honestly got just the cutest face marking. I love the big blaze with a couple of spots. I think I've mentioned that before, that one of the things that I love with face markings is if they're plain markings, but then with some spots, like just something different. So with this one, I really feel like she is probably overlooked too, because she just doesn't have muscling like you see in some of the other horses, which is something that a trainer done right can totally develop on a horse. So I think that with some good muscling, this horse could be absolutely incredible. It's always hard to tell confirmation in these motion shots. You're never gonna get a great you might get a good confirmation shot maybe once or twice. Typically these horses are moving, whether it's because of people outside of the pens or flagging, trying to show off some of their movement so people know what they're purchasing. I really think that just adding muscling will help her look a little bit more balanced. She does look like maybe she has a little bit longer of a neck, her hip isn't great, maybe a little bit cowhocked, which you can't necessarily adjust with muscling. She's got a nice big trot on her. She seems like she's a little bit willing to use her hind end. Sometimes I feel like when you watch horses stop in these pens and they're kind of shoving down on their front feet, it can be a little bit harder to train them to use their hind end. This one, I feel like she's already kind of naturally adjusted to that. I do like her headset too. She's not crazy up in the air, but she's not dragging her nose on the ground either. I really like this one. I'm glad that someone bid on her, because I do feel like she could be a great horse given the chance. So she ended up selling for $125, which is next to nothing compared to a $40K horse. Next up, we have a 6-year-old Pinto mare, 0657. Another one with some pretty cool markings. I would assume she's a little bit like Sabino markings based off of the little bit of white that's on her neck. I love the long stockings on her, and actually, oh my gosh, how cool. I think that left front has like a little bit of white marking over the knee and then has a black foot. I feel like you hardly ever see that. That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Oh, this shot of her, I think, just goes to show what she could be. It really shows her potential in that length of her stride. They look fairly even. It's a little bit hard to tell with that front foot being picked up, but it looks like her strides are pretty even. She looks like she's holding herself pretty well. Not a crazy long back, but it's kind of hard to tell when she's in this trot stride. Another one that I think with just a touch more muscling, which she does have, just a little bit more to kind of trim her up, she's gonna be stunning. I really, really, really like her. So this gal is from Diamond Hill South HMA, which is again in Nevada. She's listed at 15.3, which is a pretty dang good height. She's just so drafty, and I love that. I always love the drafty ones, the real thick bone. She seems very quiet. That was cute. Yeah, love that trot stride on her too. She seems a little bit more playful, and I really, really love that. Obviously, these are stressful situations, so whether or not that's actually playfulness is kind of up in the air. Actually, I feel like Liberty work would be great with her, encouraging her to still have a personality, still be able to enjoy the aspects of being a playful horse, but being able to do these nice, beautiful collected trot at Liberty. I think that she would just be, I could just picture that for her. I think that would be great. So this mare ended up selling for $1,200 as of now, which I could totally understand why she's one of the ones that's a little bit more up there. This auction's a little different in pricing because they've all been way up there. This mare I actually had listed in one of my other videos, and last night when I was trying to pull up pictures and save pictures of everyone, she didn't have any bids, and I was heartbroken. I know that I saw her. I'd already had her saved in the favorites on my account. This is an 18-year-old chestnut mare 3150. As of today, she does have one bid, and it just warmed my heart to see that. At 18 years old, you just don't see that all the time. This is one of the ones that I would love for sanctuaries to pick up, that she's 18. Let her go enjoy her life on a pasture. She's been through the auction process multiple times. It just would be nice to let her have a break and go enjoy her life. When I first looked at her, I don't think she was like bonkers. No, look at her. She does seem like such a quiet mover, that she just has a nice trot stride, that she's just kind of checking things out. She breaks to a walk a couple times. Because she only has one bid, she sold for $125. She doesn't have her height listed either. I think that's honestly probably part of the problem. A lot of people want taller Mustangs. They don't want something that's 14 hands. So if you can't tell if a horse is 14 hands or not, they may not want to invest in them. This is a 17-year-old Strawberry Roan gelding, which I don't know all the terminology with Strawberry Roan. I don't know. In any case, we had a whole discussion on TikTok the last time that there was a horse that didn't quite match the color description. I don't know that I want to open that door again. He is 15-1 from Stinking Water, which is in Oregon. These horses are typically going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stockier. This one is missing part of his ear, likely from frostbite. I just think that the spots on him too really tell his story. A lot of times when it comes to roans, they will not retain that gray coloring, that graying out coloring over scars. So if he was ever bit or kicked, that can leave a dark spot instead of the colored spot, which I think is just so cool on some of these older horses. You really get to see their story and it's on their body. I just think that's so cool. He's got a very cute face, that simple star, and I think that because he's 17, that's probably why he didn't get nearly as many bids. This is another one that I'm hoping kind of gets to chill. If they do a little bit of training, I would hope that it's just like minimal, but I think his build is actually pretty nice. In this shot here, where he's kind of walking forward, his back legs are really far apart and it makes his hip look pretty steep. See, and in this one, it looks a little bit better. He looks a little bit more balanced. Sometimes those confirmation shots are really difficult to see because they're moving. You don't get a true confirmation shot to be able to dictate how well balanced a horse actually is, especially because, again, once you start getting muscling on a horse, it can change how balanced they look. I'm very glad to see that this guy got a bid. I don't believe he was on the previous auction. I want to say this is probably the first one. He was listed as eligible for sale. Horses that are eligible for sale versus adoption. Adoption is still under the ownership of the BLM. Sales are, you're given the title, you own the horse. Adoption is a little bit different of a process when it comes to selling or rehoming said horses. You have to be able to go through the BLM and have an approved trainer or an approved owner at that point to be able to transfer ownership. This one's face, I think, is so pretty. I either love or hate bald faces in paints, pintos, whatever you want to call it. It depends on the horse and what looks good for them. I think the bald face on this one looks fantastic. This one is a 3-year-old pinto mare, number 9117. This one was actually born at the Carson City Correctional Facility, so she was not born in the wild. She's 14.2 hands. It's a little bit hard to see in some of these shots because they're just taken, especially the shoot picture makes her look so awkward because of the angle it was taken at. I feel like it was kind of taken downhill to make her legs look a lot shorter. I'm almost tempted to say she's a little bit downhill. Maybe. She's only 3, so really, like, that could 100% change. Does 100% change. Penny is like this right now. It's a lot. I can't totally tell. I feel like the picture's a little bit tilted down just based off of how her stride looks. So she may not be super downhill right now. I'd love to see her move from straight on because actually now that I'm looking, this one picture, her foot almost looks like it's going like this towards the inside. So I wonder if she's one of the horses that kind of paddles when she walks. Very floaty in her trot. Dang, girl. God, she is eye-catching though. You look at her though, if you were to see her from like across the field, I just would be like, oh my God, come home, come to my home. You can come stay with me. I'm not really totally getting a vibe as far as what she would be good in. Maybe dressage? What about like a Western dressage? I think Western dressage would be nice for her. She just had such a big floaty trot that I feel like some sort of dressage, but regular dressage doesn't quite fit the bill for her. I just feel like she doesn't match what is in my head. This gal actually sold for $2,020, which is a decent chunk of change. Again, there are quite a few horses this one that went for high dollar, but it's kind of nice because it was bringing attention to some of the other horses. There were a lot of eyes on this auction. All right, when it comes to burros, I know next to nothing about burros, but I thought this one was just so cute. This is a 9-year-old Pinto Jenny, number 0019. You really don't see Pintos in burros super often, as far as I know. I don't feel like I see them very often. I feel like you see the typical colors of like black, dark brown, or gray. And that's about it. She doesn't have very many pictures, and again, I'm not very familiar with burros, so I don't know conformationally what is correct for these guys. I'd also love to know too if burros can be kind of the same as Mustangs, where some of them are more reactive in the pens and some of them aren't. I feel like a lot of the burros that I've looked at lately have just been like walking from one area to the other like it's no big deal. She seems to be one of those. She kind of trotted out of the pen, which I'm assuming there's people here to kind of push her out forward, but as soon as she gets to the center, she turns around to check them out, and then she just kind of walks over to where there's other burros and is like, yeah, it's cool. I'm gonna stay over here. Yeah, if I knew anything about burros, I'd probably take this one. I think she's cute. She is from Seven Troughs HMA, which is again another one in Nevada. She sold for $405, standing at 12 hands. This is a 2-year-old Gruya gelding, 1343. This is another one that I'm like, I don't think Gruyas can be red. This one's ears look really small. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that angle. It just looks like the ears are tiny. Another kind of odd angle with the chute, but it looks like, I would say this guy is probably a little bit butt high right now. Just slightly butt high, but they're 2, so he's obviously gonna grow. And for those of you that don't know, horses tend to grow like this. They'll kind of go uphill, downhill, until they find their spot that they're supposed to be at. This guy is probably a little bit downhill for now, but I love the way he carries himself. That picture, his foot is high. He's like, oh, look at me. I'm honestly surprised this one didn't get more bids. I just think that everything that I can see on him, he looks like he's fairly well built. Maybe slightly long in the neck, a little steep in the shoulder, but it's just a little hard to tell. I also feel like this is another one that you get that nice top line on him, a little bit more muscling. He's going to be gorgeous. He is from Antelope HMA, which is another one in Nevada. I wonder if the majority, if not It's obviously not all of them. Calm down. I wonder if the majority of them are from Nevada this time around, if they gathered a lot of Nevada herds to be able to have them on this auction. This guy was only 14 hands, so honestly, that could contribute. Granted, he's 2. He could definitely grow. Most likely he's going to. 14 hands is pretty short for people, so I understand why they wouldn't necessarily want to put more down on a horse like this when there are some that are taller. He ended up selling for $255. Number 0078 is a 3-year-old chestnut gelding from Twin Peaks, California. This guy I don't think has any bids, which is unfortunate. We'll talk about why I think that he doesn't have bids yet. First things first, you always have to be careful when it comes to buying these horses through the online auction and you can see visible injuries. If you're in person, sometimes you can decide whether or not those injuries are going to be something that is life-altering for these horses. In Penny's case, there were no visible injuries, and now we have something that's going to be lifelong for her. I have a video coming out about it eventually. I'm just trying to get through things right now. This guy does have a scar right over his right eye, which is a little intimidating. Obviously, it's not necessarily something that's going to affect lameness unless it potentially affects the poll, in which case maybe just some chiropractic massage work might be able to fix whatever is going on. It's just one of those things that you have to be cautious about. This shot of him kind of down almost reminds me of that cow pony we had in the last video that everyone loved. Another one that I think muscling in the hind end and a little bit on that top line, and he would look more balanced. He's also 3, so again, he's going to be doing that up and down motion until he really gets balanced. I feel like the 2 and 3-year-olds are always so hard to judge on conformation. He moves a little funky, so it makes me really curious if he has some sort of injury based off of, he kind of does this like nose bobbing, which isn't necessarily lameness, but could be. But I'm also watching his front end, and it's almost like he's really flicking out those feet. And I just don't know that I love that. I don't know if maybe it's something that could just be a little bit of rehab, getting some good muscling and teaching him how to carry himself better, and he might be good to go. But that's why I really wonder if he didn't receive any bids, because he just seems a little bit off. Plus, he's only 14 hands. Again, he's 3, he could grow, but you know, people want big Mustangs. If they're 14 at 3, he's not going to be huge. Most likely. I should say most likely, otherwise people are going to yell at me. This is a 6-year-old chestnut mare, 0606. She's from Diamond Hills North, which is again in Nevada. When I looked at this gal, I just immediately thought kids pony, and maybe that's partially because she's only 14.1. With her being 6, she might grow a little bit more, but it's not going to be very much. I just feel like I looked at her and was like, she would be a great kids pony, obviously with training, clearly, but I just got that vibe from her that she just is going to be good with kids. I don't know, that's what I got. I'm real curious about her neck, if it's just the way her mane is sitting right now, or like if she's a little crusty. I don't know. I feel like the rest of her doesn't look crusty, so I don't know. I got nothing. Her trot strides look fairly equal in length too. Ooh, did she paddle a little bit? She might be paddling, which isn't that bad. It just is something I've noticed. Slightly. That left front foot kind of went out just for a second. So she might be one of those that kind of flicks out her feet. That could be adjusted a little bit with correct trimming, but that's just something I would continue to watch. I don't know if it's partially just that she seems a little bit more calm and that she's a little bit smaller. I just get the vibe of kids pony. Maybe even like kids jumper, or just something, just, I don't know, something with kids. I got nothing. She only got 1 bid, so she sold for $125. I want to say she was another one that I didn't see bids until last night, so it was kind of nice to see another one that is getting a home. This one is a 3-year-old Appaloosa gelding, 7200. We'll get into why I think he actually is an Appaloosa on this one. This one is from Twin Peaks, California. He's listed at 15.2 hands, which is a great height, especially for only 3. This guy is so interesting to me. I really think that his build is different because he's a little bit more narrow. This is another one that I think with some good muscling, he's going to be fantastic. His neck ties in a little bit weird to his shoulder, but with that good top line muscling, I think he'll look a little bit more balanced. As far as whether or not he's an Appaloosa, he doesn't really have white spots on him, but if you look at Penny's face, who is an Appaloosa, her eye has that very typical wall-eyed Appaloosa eye look where you see white around the iris. This guy, I think, is kind of the same way. If you were to shave down a little bit of hair on his muzzle, you might see a little bit of that spotting. Penny's modeling on her muzzle has changed so much over the years. You can also see on a lot of Appaloosas, they'll have striped feet. Penny does have some striping, especially on her hinds, I think. So this guy's a little bit awkward, but he's also only 3. We don't really get a bunch of side shots for him, so we can't totally see a bunch of confirmation. He is slightly cowhocked from what I can see. As far as his hind end, I feel like he might have a little bit of spotting, but I can't really tell if it's more of a graying out with maybe some spots or if it's just mud on his butt. At least though, if he is an Appy, he doesn't have the Appy mane, which is very nice. He really does remind me of Penny. Like, Penny isn't very wide either. She's not stocky like Draft. She is a little bit thicker boned, but just with how lanky she is, he really reminds me of her. He honestly looks like a pretty quiet horse. Yeah, I really like him. I think with some development, he could be really nice. I really like this guy a lot. He's a little bit awkward looking, but I think it's because he's 3 and he could use some muscling, and that's about it. He ended up selling for $468, which isn't very much, but I think, again, because he looks awkward, because people see some of the horses that are in these videos and go,
oh, well, they look a little bit weird right now,
and think that that's not going to change. Some of these horses, even if their personalities don't really shine through in the corral footage, they're a whole new horse when you get them out and start working with them. If you had told me Penny in the pictures was going to be Penny that I have now, I would absolutely not believe you. Now we're going to get into some of the
dollar bills, y'all.
Okay, these horses are so expensive. I cannot fathom spending this much on a horse. A horse's value is whatever people are willing to pay for them. After my own experiences with Penny and having a lack of history for her, and now realizing she has this severe medical condition, I just can't wrap my brain around spending $40,000 on a horse that we don't know what their future is going to look like. We'll get into a little bit more of it, but I can't personally justify it. Good for the people that can. I can't justify it. So this first one we're looking at is the 6-year-old Pinto mare 9314 from the McCullough Peaks in Wyoming. This is the heavily documented herd. This is the one that people were talking about. A lot of people didn't agree with this herd being gathered. Understandable. I'm not going to get into the politics of all of it. I really do like this gal's face and her build. She's still a little bit stocky. She's not that real refined bone. I do wonder if she's slightly cowhocked, at least in this picture of her kind of looking away from the camera. It looks like she might be a little bit cowhocked, which isn't fantastic, but you know, horses are still usable while being cowhocked. It's just technically a conformation fault. I don't think she has a video, which is unfortunate, but I kind of feel like the BLM was probably counting on these horses getting out of here no matter if they had a video or not. This one is 15.3, which is a great height, plus she's a little bit stockier. Like, I think she's great as far as a little bit thicker of a horse. As of now, oh, actually the auction probably just closed. What did she close at? She ended up selling for $16,015, which I think I ended up seeing her at $18,000 at one point. There was a email sent out by the BLM talking about how do I even phrase this? Talking about that you can't utilize kind of a false bidding system. People are basically going in with a friend and bidding these horses up to an insane amount where no one else is interested in considering bidding. But then these people at the top that have them listed for $15,000 remove their bid to then allow for their friend that only bid $125 to get these horses for that cheap. So the BLM sent out this email saying, hey, don't do this. So it's great that people are aware that that's happening, whether that's sanctuaries that are doing it, whether it's individuals that are doing it. In any case, I don't think it's fair at all. I think that it's kind of cheating the system for you to do it that way. I would hope that these horses are still at least going to good homes. My issue when it comes to sanctuaries doing things like this, of spending upwards of $15,000 to $40,000 for a horse, that $15,000 to $40,000 for a horse could either be used for a multitude of horses or care for those horses. Why are we dropping $40,000 on a horse that has pictures of it in the wild? I just will never understand that. It just is unfortunate to see $40,000 dropped on one horse instead of it being, let's say, 100 horses and the care for those 100 horses. A lot of horses on this auction did not get bids, and they either that or they sold for $125. Why are we not using some of that $40,000 on horses that are likely going to be stuck in the corrals because they aren't flashy, they aren't well known? Why are we not saving those ones? That's what I will just never understand. Sorry for a little bit of a rant there. We'll move on to the real expensive one. This one has a name. She's a 1-year-old Pinto filly, number 9289. She has a name in the aspect that people that have followed the herd and documented the herd gave her a name, especially based off of her stud from the wild. As far as I know, researching the little bit that I am getting about these horses, this gal is the only daughter of Thora. Thora was a stud that I believe, if I'm remembering right, Thora was a stallion out on the range that I think got into a fight or something and ended up passing away. So the fact that this is his only daughter is kind of a big deal. Her name is Thor's daughter. Thor's daughter. I'm so dumb. She also goes by Thora, which I actually think is a really cute name and a great way to still keep her stallion's name alive. This gal being only 1 year old, we don't totally know what her conformation is going to look like. She has a stunning face with the one white, one black ear, blue eyes. The black around the blue eyes is always something that I love. Even if there are white eyelashes on one side, I love black around blue eyes. I think it's the contrast that I'm like, yes, do that all the time. Make them all like that. Unfortunately, this gal does not have a video. Again, kind of like the last one we were talking about, I don't think videos were necessary for these ones. If you wanted to see more pictures, there are so many photographers that have pictures of all of these horses. In some ways, I do wish that she had stayed out in the wild because she looks like she has a fairly decent build. She's got great color to her. If she's anything like the last one we looked at, she's going to be pretty stocky, which she doesn't necessarily look like a fine boned baby. Whether that could be just partially winter coat. She would have been a great dam for the whole herd. She could have been a great mare to keep producing colorful, nicely built babies. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but at least at this point, I'm hoping that she just goes to a good home. Her height is listed at 12 hands, which is, obviously going to change because she's only a year old. She sold, is this done? I got to refresh the page now. Oh, I thought it wasn't going to load. Shut up. What? Oh my God. Okay, over these next few days, I'm gonna really keep an eye on this, especially while I'm editing this video, because as of right now, as of this second, she sold for $60,000. What? An untrained Mustang? What? And I thought it was bonkers when she was up at 30,000. Like, when I saw 40,000 yesterday / this morning, I was like,
Yeah, that's a chunk of change.
she went to $60,000. I'm sorry. I'm real curious who got her. Now I want to know. Before we wrap this video up, I went onto Facebook to see what people were saying about Miss Thora, because she's the one that everyone's been watching. I come across this comment which really just broke my heart with what we were talking about earlier, as far as sanctuaries spending upwards of $40,000 to potentially $60,000. I just have such a hard time with the idea of spending that much money on one Mustang. If your theory, if your values and goals align with getting these horses into homes, and all you're concerned about is getting horses into homes, I don't feel like it's fair to spend $40,000 to $60,000 on one horse. There are so many horses on these auctions that really do need homes, and they're not. And it just is blowing my mind that we're spending that much money on one horse. Obviously, the domesticated horse market is very different. You can spend $100,000 on a horse with little to no training based off of their bloodlines alone. I understand that. These are wild Mustangs. These are horses that have no direct competition history. They potentially are injured and you have no idea until you start doing some vet work. All of that stuff is so unknown. Even if they are a horse that's heavily documented and well known, there's a lot of aspects to them that I just can't look at a horse and go, yep, I'm going to take the risk and spend $60,000. This comment, which I think sums it up for me pretty great, they could adopt 320 of the Mustangs with zero bids for $40K. Not to mention the prices of the other McCullough Peak horses they're buying up. I just added it up because I'm curious and angry. $85,965 for all of the McCullough Peak horses so far. That will be enough for them to adopt all of the IA horses with zero bids and all of the McCullough Peak horses with over 10K left over. That's pretty much how I feel. I don't know if the $85,000 actually includes the additional $20,000 that Thora has now gone up for, because in this person mentioned zero bids for $40K. Makes me think that they had added this up just before the auction closed. In all actuality, it could be $105,000 that have been spent on the McCullough Peak horses, which great for those people that want to do it, I guess. I have a real problem with it being sanctuaries. If their values, if their morals, if their statement is we want to save horses, we want to save Mustangs, we want to give them good homes to live on the land and let them be free, why are we dropping that much money on one horse? It almost makes me a little emotional because it is so frustrating to see that kind of money dropped when, if anything, a lot of those sanctuaries are asking for donations to be able to get those horses. I am not saying all sanctuaries, because there are a lot of sanctuaries that do good work, that do intend to just get Mustangs homes, because these ones are popular, because they're kind of a collector's item, if you want to call them that. I can't. That number of $85,000 breaks my heart. Horses' value are what people are willing to pay, but $85,000 could be extremely helpful to any single horse, any tens of horses, any hundreds of horses, and the care for said horses. Even if you didn't use $85,000 to purchase all the horses on the online auction, you could set aside a certain amount for the horses that you do adopt to have their care essentially paid for, so that you don't even have to worry about it, and instead we're focused on one pretty filly. I know people are going to have their opinions, and it's frustrating on all fronts. A lot of people are upset she was captured. A lot of people are upset she's going for this much money. A lot of people are upset with the bidding wars that were going on and whether or not it was even fair. I get it. It just kind of sucks that a lot of other horses didn't get bids, that they're not going into homes and they're sitting in the corrals instead of getting care in private homes or being able to live off the land of a sanctuary. So that's how I feel about that. So sorry to be a little bit of a downer on the end of this conversation. I just think it's important to talk about. I have kept my mouth shut about a lot of this stuff because it's just not my place. It's not my opinion, whatever. I can't see the justification in spending that much money on one horse. If it's a private home, by all means, you go for it. If it's people outbidding each other for the sake of being able to collect a horse that's well known, that bothers me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to leave a comment down below with what horse was your favorite. Was it Thora? Obviously, she was adorable, so why would she not be your favorite? If you liked the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the notification bell, leave a comment down below, do all the things, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.